You're in Portland, right?
Yeah, I'm in Portland.
Is your family from there? Or are you traveling?
No, I moved here for school, but then I dropped out of school. I'm going back to Austin for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I love Austin, man. It's
Yeah.
a good place for sure. It'll be warm.
Yeah, you're in Denver?
Yeah, I'm in Denver. Been here for like 2.5 years. Feels way longer. Like super sleep deprived at the moment. I just got back from a weekend retreat at Ableton's headquarters in LA,
Oh, damn.
which was really fun, but it used up like all the last brain cells I had for the week. Yeah. But yeah, man, dude, thanks for being on the podcast. It's good
Yeah,
to
for
meet your
sure.
face. I was gonna say I've been loving your Instagram reels and stuff. You make some really good content. Like I think I was just doom scrolling one day and I came across some of your videos, and I was
Hey.
like, man, some really good tips and tricks. And I was like, kind of actually picking some of them up and following along. And I was like, man, like I never would have thought to do this.
That's awesome.
Yeah. How long have you been using Ableton Live?
Since 2018. I started producing in 2017 on Logic, and then I was like, oh wait, Ableton looks cool, because I watched like Getter or someone like have a live stream of it, and I was like, oh, this looks way better for like what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Well, you seem like you definitely have like a technical background too. You do like your own custom Macs for live devices and stuff like that. What school were you going to?
I was going to Reed College in Portland, but for like neuroscience, but I failed like biology, so I decided, okay, maybe this isn't for me. Also, partly
Yeah.
because I was using Ableton instead of doing my homework.
I mean, that's honestly probably a good trade-off, really. Really, like I said, really been loving the content you've been working on and busting out on Instagram, and like your music's really dope too. I was like bumping your Spotify yesterday.
Hey,
Maybe share some of your music background, like for people who don't know who you are. How did you get into music?
I haven't had like that much like of a music background. Like I took like band when I was like in middle school and played trumpet for like a year, and then dropped out of that. But I think I got into like actual like beat making because of GarageBand on the iPhone, because
Oh, nice.
they just made it like really easy to like sample from like your phone microphone. So like I would just like use it like randomly when I was bored, and then I was like kind of getting into it and saved up money for a laptop, and then
Nice.
eventually moved on to Logic, and then I just got deeper in the rabbit hole. Honestly, it just came from me procrastinating on all my schoolwork, honestly.
Nice. Yeah, I understand the feeling. Have you used Ableton's Note app at all?
Yes, I actually do really love Note, especially for like, I guess like places like the plane or the toilet or something. I like to call it toilet tunes.
Toilet tunes. Yeah, you can make a whole YouTube series off of that. Just your toilet
Honestly.
tunes.
But honestly, Move, the thing that Ableton just came out with, like I think replaced kind of Note for me. Not for like the toilet, but like I like the portability of it more than, or like the feeling of using it when I'm not at the computer more than like my phone.
Yeah, man. I barely had enough time this weekend to play with Move for the first time, but it was cool. Like I think it's for a very niche type of audience. You know, it's
Definitely.
really, yeah. I don't know if it's something I would want to like play on stage, but if I'm like stuck in my car in a traffic jam, or if I'm like, you know, at my nephew's game at the park and just like waiting around, it's just kind of nice to have this little controller you can pull out of your book bag and just start jamming on.
Oh, definitely. And it's like bright enough to take outside too, like compared to Push.
Yeah, for sure. It's way smaller and lighter. And it has a built-in speaker, so like you don't.
Oh,
even need,
yeah.
You know, you don't need headphones. You can just jam out.
That's what I like about it most.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd play it on my toilet because I'm kind of a germaphobe. I feel like
No,
I'd
yeah,
have to like
same.
wipe it off with Germex all the time, and then maybe that would feed into like the buttons and it would short out or something. I'd be nervous, but
Yeah, I wouldn't on the toilet either, but which is why Note is still in the picture for me for that reason.
there you go. Yeah, it's easier to clean your phone.
They're all waterproof now.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we need is a waterproof Push. Maybe for the Push 4, then you can just like take it into like the pool and like lay on the side of a beach and not worry about it getting wet or sandy.
Yeah, or like to take it hiking with you. So like if you accidentally drop it from like 50 feet, it'll still be okay or something.
Yeah. The Push 3 is pretty durable too, though. The thing's pretty heavy. It's got some weight to it.
Yeah, I think it being heavy is what makes me want to leave it on my desk.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've played Push 3 for a little while, but like I'm actually finally getting one in the mail. It's coming today. So it's like Yeah, it's like Christmas. I'm ready for it.
You got the standalone?
Yeah, for me it's like it makes sense to have the standalone
Definitely.
because I think that's like probably one of the biggest value adds from the 2 to the 3. Obviously, there's a lot of updates and stuff involved, and we've talked about that on the podcast. But I think just the fact that you don't need to tether it to a laptop is just so nice. And like for me, that's the biggest jump from a 2 to a 3.
Definitely. I don't have like a lot of hardware, so like if I like go to a friend's house that like where he has a ton of hardware, it's fun to like have a DAW list set up where you plug in like their synths or something into your push, and you can like sample that, slice it on simpler. It's like super easy on push.
Oh, absolutely. I didn't even realize this. So Robert Trusco is like a push wizard. He's like one of the best push players I've ever seen in my life. You should check him out if you get a chance. But he was showing that like if you are like doing slice in a simpler, like slice mode, you can slice it and then you can just tap a button and then it'll just create a slice as it's playing through every time you tap.
Oh.
Which I thought was a really cool concept because rather than like slicing by default to like, quarter notes or eighth notes or doing manual slices by clicking, you can just hit play and it'll start playing from the beginning of the playhead through the whole sample in simpler. And then you just tap a button on push. And every time you hit that one button, it just instantly creates that slice.
Oh, that's awesome.
So if you're trying to sample a song or something, you'd be like, oh, I want that or that. And you just tap it and then it just automatically slices it into a drum rack for you.
Damn, I didn't know that they had that on push. That's like the only way you can slice up on move right now.
Oh, really?
Using that method, but you have to tap on each pad that you want each slice to go to.
Yeah, man, it's wild. I love your Instagram reels. Like I was saying, are you using like a 360 camera? You've got some like wild effects.
Insta360. I think it's X3.
Okay.
I just like put it. This is it. Like I would just like put it on a stand and I'll put it like super close to my face, and I'll have to like kind of like cross-eye like look through it to like read my computer screen.
Yeah, dude, it looks hilarious. You look like a bobblehead. I love it. Yeah, I have the X4 and that thing's pretty wild. It's like video editing for dummies because you don't have to like have it pointed in any direction. That's the nice thing about a 360 camera is you can reframe it however you want, and like the 360 Studio app that comes with it is really intuitive for people who don't know what they're doing.
For sure. I do take that footage and then put it into After Effects afterwards, just so I can like cut out like the Ableton like interfaces and stuff.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, your videos are solid. I would love to just like nerd out with you. I mean, you definitely are one of those people who like just go ham with like the audio effects and obviously make your own Max devices. A lot of like unconventional workflows in live with a lot of your tutorials, and anybody who hasn't like checked out your Instagram reels or your YouTube channel, like highly recommend just go binge them. There's a lot of fun tips and tricks, especially if you're like struggling to learn new stuff or like you're already been producing for a while and you just want to try some new fun, weird things. Yeah, you've got a solid example of somebody who teaches that kind of stuff.
For sure. I saw you were asking, what were your questions? I saw that you were wondering what like stock effects.
Yeah, what are your like some of your favorite stock effects in live?
Honestly, EQ8. You don't just have to use it as an EQ. There's a scale button. I don't know if you ever, or scale knob. I don't know if you ever like turn that. Like it's normally used for like adjusting how much you want to like EQ. But it's fun to automate that to get like, especially if you're into like bass music or something, it's fun to automate that with like a high shelf or something to make kind of like formant wubs in a sense, or like make some like attenuation automations.
Yeah.
I think that's like a super underrated one. Also just all of the multi-band dynamics presets, besides OTT. Because you can get like there's one that's like called reduce ambience, which you can use to kind of like if you put it after a reverb, you can get these like nice clicky like kind of results, or like make it sound like it's in a space without like the actual reverb. I can pull up Ableton if there's screen sharing in this.
Yeah, for sure. I think most people are listening to audio, but we do have video. If anyone wants to watch this on YouTube or Spotify, you can check that out. We could screen share. But yeah, speaking of EQ8, not to like diverge or anything, I saw you have your Max for Live device, MeQ8. That was really cool. Like it's a cool envelope follower mapping to the EQ. It's like a really quick kind of way to do some kind of like envelope following dynamic EQ kind of stuff. It's kind of a cool concept.
I like that for like the thing I was just talking about with like the modulation, but except, following the key.
Yeah, so it's following the key of whatever's being played, basically.
But yeah, it follows the key, and you can multiply frequency by like any number on each EQ notch, or you can also multiply all of them at once, so you can like kind of modulate. I really do want to show you like what I'm talking about, so it's like easier to explain.
Totally. Do you want to blow up your display, command and then plus sign? Command plus.
Oh wait, you just do command plus?
Yeah, or minus.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that.
yeah, it's fun. Yeah, probably blow that up so it's easier to see.
Okay. I would like, do something like this with a shelf where it's just like kind of, and then making EQ notches in like reducing EQ notches to kind of make it have like a formant effect. And then I like to get envelope MIDI or LFO and map it to the scale. So it's like making like a wub in this way.
Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah, so it's just like, just inverting it basically every time it hits.
Yeah.
That's a cool idea.
And it's also cool to get an envelope MIDI to map to like the global frequency. So you get kind of like almost like pitch envelope performance.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so are you just like choosing the frequency when you're creating a band in the EQ8 to be in key, like to a specific note?
Yeah, I guess it's like, or like I would keep on hitting a note and while playing with like the frequency band, and then I would like try to match that up with the frequency that shows up on the band once like it's mapped. I might make an update where you can just like type in the frequency and it goes to the multiplication.
That would actually be really cool, especially if you could have like the frequency tied to a note for people who don't already know. And then you could just easily just like lock it into key. But that's a cool concept. I like that Max for Live device.
Fuck yeah. It's just fun to do. Do you get into Max for Live at all?
I know enough to not sound stupid, but I don't actually build devices. I just enjoy using other people's, like yourself, who put all the time and hard work into it.
It's become my new form of procrastination for actually like finishing music.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like there's like a balance there because some people go so ham on like making devices that they don't actually make a lot of music, or vice versa. So like I know Toby Hunka, Ableton drummer, and I released a Resampler Pro. I can send it to you.
Oh yeah.
It's basically a Max for Live device that helps automate the multi-sampling process. If you want to make like sample packs of like your favorite plugin patches or hardware.
Whoa.
So it kind of automates a lot of the process of like recording one note across, say, like 3 or 4 different octaves to like be able to throw into a sampler and just be able to play back as an instrument. So you can.
Wow, I actually probably would use that.
Yeah. For people who want to make sample packs, that's what we made it for. But it could be used, for people who are performing live. Maybe you have an Omnisphere patch, and like obviously Omnisphere is a computer hog, and so like performing live would make me really nervous if I was performing with a plugin that DSP heavy or CPU heavy. So this is like one way to kind of hopefully get around that. You could just play it in a sampler and have that same sound live.
For sure. So when you play sets, you do Ableton sets and like you play your instruments?
I have for a long time. Recently, I've been getting more into DJing. I've kind of become much more lazy just because it's a convenience factor. But
for sure.
But I always did perform live. Do you perform live too?
I have not performed a live show yet. I'm scheduled to play one in April in Austin. I think I want to try Ableton live set as my first set. I haven't really gotten into DJing really.
Okay.
And I like the idea of Ableton.
Yeah, I mean, you have more control for sure. It's really just about stability at that point, making sure your set's real stable. But it's, I mean, there is no right or wrong. I think it just depends on the setup and what you're trying to do.
For sure.
Where are you playing at in Austin?
I think it's called Underground Sound Festival. It's like a friend of a friend is hosting it, but it's a bunch of smaller artists. I saw you had my friend Noah the Boy on here.
Yeah, for sure.
He's playing it. I don't know if you know Hooligan or Lord Ginmu.
No, I don't.
They're more like smaller, like bass trap artists. I feel like you might know more people on there maybe than me, depending on what spaces you're into. But
Yeah, Portland. Oh, well, so you were going to be playing in Austin, but you're in Portland now because
Yeah,
because Nowhere the Boy is in Portland, right?
yeah.
And then Underbelly, I think, is still in Portland.
Oh yeah. I actually met
Tim,
him while with I was in a session with Nowhere the Boy a couple weeks ago. He's a chill guy.
yeah, Tim's hilarious.
You suck at producing?
You suck at producing, yeah. He's hilarious. He's been on the podcast twice.
Oh damn, I haven't listened to those.
Yeah, he's really talented. Well, yeah, I love like some of these other Maxify tools you've made. Maybe shout out a couple other ones and like why they're important or how you would use them.
So I try to make at least like one new one a month. And I actually just made one this past weekend that's like basically my own version of Kiloheart's Transgate. I just called it Autogate. I was kind of frustrated with Transgate that it didn't have a random button for like randomizing patterns. So a lot of my Max device making comes from me wanting a feature in another tool that I'm using a lot of the time. So I just made it where you can randomize the envelope shape, randomize the steps, the step count, or you can randomize everything at once, and it makes like rhythms instantly for you.
That's really cool. Yeah, there was another one you made that I thought that was really cool. It was random sample picker.
Oh yes.
That one looked really interesting. I didn't have a chance to play with it, but I saw your video where you just drag a sample from a browser folder into the device, and then you can just scroll quickly through samples randomly in the device. But then you can also map the scrolling by an LFO.
Yes.
So you could have random samples being played through the device, and then it would just be like mapped to the LFO rhythm or whatever. And I thought that was kind of a cool way it was almost kind of like a different way to do mud pies, sort of.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely do want to like see if I can improve on its functionality more, because if you have a bunch of bases in a folder, then like they'll all be like, and they're like a bit like random root notes and whatnot. But it is cool if you have a folder more than like 128 samples, which is sampler's limit. So you could really quickly just like go through all of those for mud pies. But I have a friend who's building scripts where if you have like the key labeled on your sample and you drag it into your project, it will transpose the key to your project if you have your scale awareness on.
Really?
Yeah. It's not there yet, but it's accurate like 70% of the time, I want to say.
So wait, you're saying if I had a sample that was named F minor or something, I could drag that into the project and then it would just change the entire project to F minor?
Oh, other way around. So if your project is in G minor, for example, and you drag it in your F minor, it would just pitch it up +2.
Got it. Oh, that's brilliant. I love that. That's really cool. I could totally see people using something like that. So it's interesting. That would be huge because, and I wonder if that's going to be an update coming that Ableton's going to implement, because right now you can actually change the scale awareness in an audio clip.
Oh, yeah.
But that's only going to be for scale aware devices like Auto Shift.
Yeah.
So like you can have like a bunch of different audio clips lined up and you just set the key in the audio clip to different keys, like, or notes basically. And then if you have a vocal, you could actually kind of shift the vocal using auto shift and kind of tune it to whatever clip is being played at that time, which is wild.
I do think that's really cool. And I really hope they expand on the scale awareness to like do basically what my friend's script does.
That would be huge, because there's been so many times where I'm like, oh, I've got to go change the transpose of this clip or this clip, and if you just automatically did it based on scale awareness, it's massive.
Especially for like melodic mud pies. Do you ever do melodic mud pies?
Yeah, for sure. Just like like Chroma is a plugin that's really cool. Where I've taken a mud pie and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna harmonize it in key because I'm not even sure what that mud pie turned into.
For sure.
It's a cool plugin. I saw you did a thing on a Chroma.
Yeah, with I like the Smooth Automator Max device. I forget who it's by, but that is really nice for like automating and interpolating between different presets or snapshots, I guess they're called in racks.
Yeah, that one's really cool. It's by KB Devices. They make a lot of really great stuff.
I need to look into them more.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really cool one too.
Oh, but yeah, I was using that one to morph between the chords in Chroma, since you can like set which keys are active or which notes are active at once.
That's smart. Yeah, you made a rack, didn't you? And then you just mapped it to Chroma.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so sweet. That's a great idea. I never actually even thought of doing that with Chroma. That makes so much sense. Is that a downloadable thing, or is that just?
I don't even know if I've saved it, honestly. I could or maybe I can look in that project and like save it, and I can send it, maybe make it a free download.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I
it's
think
like
people would like that.
it's only in, I think, the key of that song though for right now. I think someone pointed out to me afterwards that you can actually MIDI map Chroma, which I wasn't aware of, but it makes sense that you could.
Yeah. You also have your Clicks Max for Live device, which is basically, it's essentially just like shaping the attack, right? The transient, and just like plucking it, making stuff more plucky.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like Ableton's gate isn't as sensitive as I'd like it to be, so I wanted to make like a more sensitive version of it, I guess, just for like the clicky. So I really like the brain scratching kind of noises, and like the music I'm working on right now is kind of centered around like all the short decay time, like kind of sounds.
Yeah, I would say you have a lot of like really cool textures in your music that you seem to like really get into.
Yeah, everything basically that I'm working on right now is using it in some way. Or also that auto gate I was talking about, the trance gate kind of ripoff in a way, is I'm using that on melodic mud pies, as in like I would get like maybe 11 presets in Ableton. So you know how you can go to the sounds tab on the sidebar and then filter for like piano keys or like plucks or whatever. I just drag like 11 or so presets into a chain selector, and I would use the random mode on expression control. So every time you press a key, it would switch to a different preset in that chain selector. And then I would basically just spam keys on like my push or my keyboard while recording that, just so I could like maybe like slice that up and get some kind of cool pattern out of that. But using the auto gate will give you a bunch of transients. So if you like put it into something like granulator, or if you use like the slice to MIDI presets that comes with Ableton, you can do kind of like cool granular like brain scratchy plugs that way.
That's cool. Yeah, that's an awesome idea. I wanted to let you know that Atom Audio sent me 2 of their studio monitors, and I'm madly in love with them. And if you don't know Atom Audio, they're a Berlin-based company that is a leader in audio gear. They've been around for 25 years, and they've crafted some really high-quality studio gear trusted by top producers and engineers worldwide. The H200 closeback headphones offer clear sound, memory foam comfort, and easy connectivity with laptops or studios. They have the D3V monitors, which is Atom Audio's first fully active desktop speakers, and they give you some really powerful sound with their AMT tweeters. I absolutely love the mid-range for their speakers. The A8H I'm using right now, I love the mid-range. I heard it said really well once that good engineers master the lows and highs, but the best engineers master the mid-range. You need to be able to hear well, which is why you should check out Atom Audio's headphones and their studio monitors. Just go to atom-audio.com or check out the link in the show notes. And now back to today's episode. Yeah, the chain selector, I feel like, is something a lot of people don't really utilize as much as you could. Chuck Sutton, I don't know if you know him, he was at this Ableton retreat we did recently, and he was doing some wild stuff with chain selectors and racks.
Oh, yeah?
He made it so, like, he was mapping, I'd have to go back and, like, kind of review, but he was basically in sampler mapping the pitch to the velocity MIDI effect. And he was doing it in a way that like you could randomize when the MIDI note would actually be able to pass through or not. And so he was creating these kind of really cool kind of like on-off effects. So for example, he made an AirPod effect by doing this. So like if you have AirPods, you know that you tap the AirPod once to pause or play. You tap it twice to skip to the next song, or you tap it 3 times, I think it goes back or something. He did the same thing by tapping one computer key note. So on your
Whoa.
computer keyboard, if you tapped it once, it would play the song in the chain in a sampler. And then you tap it twice, it would skip to the next chain in the sampler and play the next song. And then you tap it 3 times, it would go back. Or if you tap it once, it would stop and start. And he was doing that it was like crazy, dude. Like
Wow.
I feel like you guys would have a lot of fun just going hard, like nerding out with like effects racks and chains.
I've seen some of his YouTube stuff. I like how he makes all the tools you already have expressive. Like you make like your mouse like an instrument, your keys, your keyboard and instrument, trackpad. I think that is a really cool way of looking at producing.
100%. He also made like a lightsaber rack, and it sounded just like a lightsaber. So if you turn the macro knob to the right, you'd hear this like whoo kind of sound.
That's
if you turn to the
wild.
left, it would swing back. And then to even go further, you would turn the other knob, and it was shooting a laser gun sound. He made it expressive in the sense of where you could try to fight the laser. So you turn it to fight the laser gun. So the laser gun would shoot, and then you have to time it to try to deflect it with your lightsaber, where you just like you just try to hit it off.
That's so wild.
Otherwise, it would hit you and just be like, "Blah!" It's like crazy.
Wow.
Yeah,
that is like super creative. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I don't know what the practical application is of making music with it, but it's like a really fun toy.
The fact that I think the challenge of making it itself seems like really fun.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I need to get him on here and just have him talk through it. And I feel like a lot of people would get lost. But it'd be entertaining.
I'll probably watch it like 3 times over again.
Yeah, at least 3. He was showing it to me, and it was like at like midnight, and I was like half asleep, and I was like trying to follow. Any other MaxFly devices you think are worth shouting out that you've been working on?
Oh, man. I just updated my FM audio effect, which is like basically modulating a frequency shifter at like audio rate, like mapped to know. You can like key map it or MIDI map it. And I built in like an envelope follower or a threshold triggered ADSR. So every time like the incoming signal crosses a threshold, it'll trigger this envelope as if you're using like operator. So if you had a bass loop you wanted to like FM or something, you could just like plop that on there and make it whatever coarse tuning that you would like if it was an operator, and basically I guess go to town.
Interesting. I have to play with that.
I'm trying to think of what else. I recently redid there was this device called Granular Mirror Maze by Amazing Noises that was like, it has to be like 10 plus years old. I was using it in my default projects, and on my Patreon I would give out my default projects, and that was one of my return tracks. And people would be like, oh, I can't find this device anymore. And I guess they discontinued it. So I just decided to, I guess, revamp it and add some controls. Like I put the clicks inside of it, so you can like have like the clicks inside of the delay if you wanted to have that effect in there, and also a ducking effect like that's in the stock echo. So every time your sound comes in, the wet effect would be ducked by the incoming sound.
That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah. That's kind of a similar effect that I saw you do in a different video with Soothe. If you turned on the delta, you can like actually just mute the wet signal, and you just get the dry signal. It's really tight, and you kind of get this like pluckiness.
I think that was with Spiff, but you can do that with Soothe.
Oh, okay. Maybe it was Spiff then.
Spiff is like almost like a spectral version of clicks in that sense.
Yeah.
I have been using that more lately, and also like on drums too, because I like it makes, if you have like a really wet drum bus and you if you plop that on there on delta mode, you can almost get like a claustrophobic feel on your drums.
Yeah, it makes them sound really tight and like dry.
But and I guess I also just have modulators. Like I have a LFO where you can drop in a sample and it would extract like a waveform. So you can basically use the waveform to modulate whatever as if it were an LFO.
Interesting. So like, okay, so the waveform is you map that waveform to something else basically, and then that waveform is modulating it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And you can zoom into different parts of the sample to like loop that. And it's like kind of different from envelope follower, since envelope follower is like unipolar, so it'll only modulate in one direction, whereas this one will actually be bipolar wave modulation.
Well, could you still accomplish that with the new sidechain in the envelope follower? Because they added a sidechain feature in envelope follower now.
Well, it's still unipolar that way. Like it's just following the volume. It's just following the amplitude. So it will only automate in one direction, where LFO is like modulating like around like the baseline.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I do like that for the dynamic EQ on the new envelope follower.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's huge too. I mean, I've always used like track spacer, I think, until now. And now it's like you don't even need track spacer necessarily.
Definitely.
Yeah, that side chaining on the envelope follower is so nice. Yeah, that's the thing, man. With Live 12, I feel like it got rid of a lot of plugins I used.
Honestly,
like, there's so many things.
There was a Strum Max for Live device where it was like you can basically, it was someone basically had made a MIDI tool before there were MIDI tools.
Yeah.
Where you could like strum your piano roll, and then when Live 12 came out, they basically just built that in, made that obsolete. Same with like a bunch of other ones.
Yeah, and Philip Meyer was on the podcast. He made a lot of really cool MIDI tools. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have 2 that I'm collaborating with him on that should be coming out soon. Cool. One of them is like a chord inverter, so you can, if you have like a chord progression or like one chord in a progression, you can like stair step like up and down to like kind of make different inversions, or you can stretch them out to kind of like distribute them across different octaves.
Wait, say that again. Sorry, I lost you.
It is a hard concept to explain. So basically, it's just like a revoicer. So you're playing the same chords, but you're just like doing different inversions or like spreading the notes out across different octaves.
Okay.
So we have that, and also a like a bass note isolator. So if you have a chord progression, it will just solo out the bass notes and also move them down to the sub octave or an octave of your choosing.
So is this MIDI or audio?
These are both MIDI tools.
Okay. Yeah. That's so sick. There's so many MIDI tools now, man. Like with Max for Live being a little more like open source in a sense with Live 12, it makes so much sense. There's so much more you can do now.
Definitely.
Like with devices and the MIDI clip. It's so cool.
I would really love to see them expand that to like the browser. I feel like since like I really want Random Sample Picker to be like a feature of the browser. So I feel like if they were to implement like browser tools or Maxfly browser tools or any other parts of Ableton, I feel like you could make like a way more modular DAW.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, is like, I don't know if it would actually be technically AI, but having some kind of more workflows available in the browser would be really sick. Because I don't think the browser now can detect key.
Well, you can label with the filters like keys of sounds, and they have a bunch of samples already key labeled. So if you go to samples, there is a key. Yeah, there's a key.
It's only by what's labeled, though.
Yeah.
It's not actually detecting it without it being renamed.
Yeah, that's what I would love them to add that.
Yeah, that would be huge. And the technology's there, you know? You've got mixed in key.
Yeah, mixed in key.
Like, I don't know if you ever used the mixed in key live. I use that all the time.
Yeah, that's the one I use.
Awesome. Yeah, it just listens to the output of your sound card and just tells you the key and tempo of anything playing on your computer.
Yeah, and it's like pretty, I think like it's been like right every time too. Like every time like I like try to like cross check it.
Yeah, it only takes like 5 or 6 seconds and it nails it.
I think the issue is like, I think with Ableton and having all these like features that everyone wants, they need to make sure that it doesn't break everything else that's already in their code.
Definitely. Yeah, there's a lot they keep adding, and so at some point it's going to get kind of bloated, and yeah, it's definitely a balance of just keeping things clean and running quickly and smoothly. Yeah.
Definitely. That was also like one of their key values with Move, which is why there's not like a ton of things on Move already, because they just want it to be quick and snappy.
Yeah, for sure. There was actually Yuta Benatar Sidebrain was at this weekend retreat recently at Ableton's headquarters, and he was talking about one of his biggest feature requests. And this one's for you, Yuta. But everybody, if you aren't on the Discord, Ableton's Discord, like there is a place where you can go into the Move, and Sidebrain has a feature request somewhere in there for MLR, which is basically like MLR in a sense, and I'm probably going to butcher this. It's like a way for you to real time chop loops. So you could just like chop a loop, like one of the classic MLR MIDI controllers from back in the day was the mono MIDI controller. Was like one of the first real grid controllers of its time that was like really inspired the Launchpad and all this other stuff. But the mono has like an MLR thing basically where you can just, every row is basically a loop, right? And you've got a bunch of rows, but you could literally just have the sequencer of a loop and then instantly just tap and cut that loop to keep looping really fast. And then just, you can kind of, and so that would be a really cool feature on the Move.
Yeah, wow.
And everybody should go to the Discord, go to the Move area and vote on that or upvote it, because that would be, I think, a game changer to have more looping functionality on the Move controller.
Definitely. I was hanging out in that little section of the Discord for like the first week or so it came out. I was like just trying to absorb all of the info I could of like what you could do. But my biggest feature request would basically just like port simpler if it doesn't eat too much CPU, like with like the transient bass slicing.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Just wanted to let you know, Magic Mind is a delicious productivity drink, and you should check it out. It gives you all the mental clarity and focus you need without the unhealthy side effects like chugging coffee or crappy energy drinks. One little shot gives you the perfect combo of nootropics, adaptogens, and functional mushrooms in a high-quality little matcha shot. This drink is incredible. I've given it to a bunch of people on the podcast. They all love it. It tastes good, makes you feel good. There's no crash or come down. If you want to get 50% off, then use the discount code Ableton Music in all capitals. That's Ableton Music. Just check out the link in the show notes to grab your own Magic Mind. I highly recommend it. You won't be disappointed. This is a great deal. I've talked about it on the podcast many times, so go check them out. What about stock Ableton Live devices? Like, what are some of your go-tos and what are some of your favorite ways to use and abuse them?
Besides like EQ and like multi-band dynamics, I think I need to like actually think. I think envelope MIDI is definitely one of my most used ones. Just so like I was a Serum user before I was an Ableton user, and I really like that your entire DAW can basically be a Serum patch with like the LFO and envelope MIDI and all that. So I love to like just make giant patches modulating stuff on MIDI note presses.
That's
also
cool.
The chord device got updated in Live 12, so you can press this learn button on the top and play like a chord like on a keyboard, and every note you press will play that same chord. And
yeah, it says scale awareness, which is really nice.
Yeah, that too. And I think my favorite part about it is the strum, since you can basically have it make generative melodies for you if you like map the random and expression control to the strum, tension, and crescendo. A few like racks where it just like is just a melody generator based off of that. And also there's like a chance option too, so there'll be like a probability of whether each note in the chord plays or not.
That's so sick. Yeah, I haven't played with the chance much in the chord MIDI effect, but it's a good idea. That's awesome. I've used strum a lot, like inside of the MIDI tools, but I forgot that chord also has a strum on it.
Yeah, I actually just made a video for Ableton. It's going to come out on their socials pretty soon that uses the chord strum along with the tension stock instrument. I don't know if you ever use that one.
I don't use tension that much, but I know people love it.
It's one of the AAS, I guess, real life pluck emulators. It's nice to use those in tandem, so it's like you can get like realistic guitar strums and like automate like the decay time, so it like sounds like you're actually like strumming like a ukulele or something.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, tension's pretty cool. It's you can make stuff sound real weird real fast on this thing.
I also love how they integrated the MPE. Do you use MPE at all?
Yeah, like I don't use a lot of the MPE devices like MPE Control or Note Off, but like I do like going inside the MIDI clip and being able to bend notes and like have them kind of like swell and interact between each other. I know Jonathan Stein does a lot of that kind of stuff. He's really wild with MPE.
Have you played with the MPE LFO within the piano roll? Like that's new in Live 12.1.
I don't think so.
So you can basically make your own vibratos with a pitch bend, but you can also modulate like the slide and pressure for each note, like even if you don't have like an MPE controller like Push. So you can map slide and pressure on MPE synths like Wavetable to modulate stuff like filter cutoff or like wave position for each individual note. So if you use like the random wave in the MPE LFO, you can essentially generate automations for you using that.
Yeah, that's so sick. That's awesome. Yeah, I played with MPE in the clip, but like I know like in Sampler you can also do some really interesting stuff.
Oh, for sure. It's fun to what you said your Push is coming soon.
Yeah, today sometime.
So something I love to do on Push is map like slide to like a chain selector, so you can control like where on a pad like plays a specific sample. So if you're playing like hats or something, you can make like the bottom of a pad play like a closed hi-hat and the top of it play an open hi-hat or something.
That's so sick. Is that something that is like in the settings of the Push, or is that like you'd have to menu dive in the sampler or the instrument itself?
You would have to menu dive. I wish they would make it more instant on the Push. I feel like they're still trying to work on what the Push is, like what's supposed to be, but you do have to go in the Push settings to change the in tune location of like being aware of where you press on the pad to trigger that. But it is something that's fun to use once you set it up.
Those pads are insane. Like the Push 3 pads it's like a better version of Rolly in my opinion, because I played on like Rolly synths and stuff, and I just feel like it's, in a way, it's almost like too sensitive, where it's like kind of hard to play actually. If you're a keyboard player, I feel like there's a learning curve using something like the Rolly. But I think with the Push pads, it's like you can really dial it in pretty quickly, or at least in my experience. And I love just being able to glide like between notes or slide.
Oh, for sure.
And it's just right there. It just feels good. Like the pads are so nice and pretty sensitive.
I almost like the Rolly sensitivity better. I mean, I haven't gotten Rolly until like a couple months ago. Like I got their new version of the Seaboard M, this guy.
Okay. See, I used the first gen Seaboard. That was the first time when
I've heard everyone say that Seaboard, like they've had issues with it, I think, but it sounds like they've like fine-tuned everything more. I don't actually know.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know.
But I do like the sensitivity of that one more, like at least like pressure wise, because like sometimes it'll be a little jittery on the Push, but that also just might be my sensitivity settings. I'm not super sure.
Yeah, because I know that's like one of the first things I was told to really dial in is when I first start playing with it, the sensitivity settings. Yeah, because I'm a drummer more than anything.
For sure.
I had my old like Ableton teacher from Dubspot. When I first learned, he had a bunch of peacocks in his backyard, and so he would put a bunch of seed on the Push and then just like put an arpeggiator on it and like adjust it, and then the peacocks would just be playing the Push, and it was like some really cool like arpeggiated melody.
Wild.
They're just like pecking his Push, and he's just like throwing seeds on it, just making music.
Wow.
It's hilarious. Well, I know there's a couple other things you wanted to talk about, and we're getting close on time. I actually have to take my dog to the vet, but you were talking about like the direction of producers and music production as it relates to social media. I was just curious, like what your thoughts were on that.
Do you like to like scroll on like producer social media a lot? Like you see a bunch of like all these new up and coming people like filming their like setups and like playing whatever whips they have the photo booth or FaceTime camera.
Yeah.
Do you find that you find like a bunch of new artists that you like that way?
No, not really. Like, I don't know. Like for me, a lot of times, especially in the last, 6 or 7 months for me in social media, like I'm more of kind of a post and ghost kind of person where I don't want to doom scroll just because I know for my own mental health,
for sure.
I kind of have to really be conscious of how much time I spend there. So I'm usually just like looking to like respond to any posts or comments from the podcast, and then I'm just posting, or I have a guy that posts on social media for me.
That's smart
for episodes, so I don't have to be in there too long. Yeah,
I honestly would love to have that. I have a doom scrolling habit, but
we've all been there, I think.
No, but I think it is interesting that a bunch of people are becoming known from like reels and TikTok. But I also think
Mm,
it's like creating like a echo chamber of like everyone trying to sound like each other in a way.
yeah.
Um
Yeah. So you think that like because the algorithm potentially is just feeding you similar content to yourself or what you're interested in, that it does probably feed into that echo chamber of like, here's a new recommended artist that released a song and he's just jumping around in front of his computer.
yeah, and I do think that like at first it was like a bunch of new like creative like sounds and like styles that like I hadn't heard before, but now I think it's like everyone's like kind of like feeding off of each other.
Mm.
But I remember you, as one of your questions, you were asking like what I would say for people stuck with sound design. What was that question again?
Yeah, I think I sent an email that said like what advice for producers would you give wanting to step up their sound design skills?
I think with that and also like tying into like the social media, like trying not to sound the same as everyone.
Mm,
I
yeah.
think it's important to try to think of how you wouldn't use, or like think of something that you think is used for one thing and see how you can use it to your advantage in another way, I guess. For example,
Yeah.
like the delta that I was just talking about with Spiff, like that's just used for monitoring like what the plugin is doing. Like if it's something's made for
Mm.
monitoring, you can probably also use it for actual sound design.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I like that concept too. Like there's so many presets, which I think is like it has its place. I think presets can be fine for people when they first start out and they're just like trying to make something that doesn't sound like garbage and they want to just be able to get to the place of where like, oh, I've finished a song. I think that has its place. But I think like at some point you're gonna probably want to find your own original sound and be able to learn a lot of these deeper tools to like kind of create your own workflow and have these new like Easter eggs of discovering new sounds and creating something nobody's ever heard before. And I think that's like where a lot of the really fun and like unique music is made. Of just like finding new stuff and like being like, well, what happens if I drag this on this and map it to this? Like, we'll
Yeah.
just see what happens, you know? And you're a great example of somebody who does that really well.
We have like, I remember seeing someone say like we have more tools. I think it was King Brit. Do you know of King Brit?
I know the name. I
I
know the
saw him
name.
on
Sounds familiar.
the doing Ableton's Doing Music podcast. I think he said that we have more
Oh, okay.
tools than the Beatles did, but so in a way we should be sounding like super different and have all these different sounds around us, but instead we are like kind of we are limiting ourselves by having unlimited tools. So you have to try to find ways to
Yeah.
limit yourself and see what you can do with few plugins, or like give yourself like challenges to be like, okay, I'm only going to use like sine waves, or I'm only going to make sounds with my mouth, no synthesizers, and see what I can do with like effects or
Yeah.
something. And out of that, you can find new ways to use stuff. And that's also how I feel with Move, since the Move is like super
Mm,
limited in like you only get 4 tracks and you only have like a certain amount of effects. But the fact that you can resample on Move
yeah.
means that you can try to find ways to use the same effect over and over again by printing effect, and seeing how you can make something crazy with that. Now,
Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree. I think like limitations can like definitely inform creativity. I think that's a real thing. Like I did that. I made a challenge for myself once to only use wavetable for every sound and every instrument in my entire track. And like I learned so much about wavetable just doing that and like trying to find how I can turn this into that or create a snare with wavetable and all this other stuff. And it's like, honestly, it was like one of the most creative, fun tracks I
that's
made
awesome.
because I locked myself in a box. Yeah. And I think that can be a really good challenge. Yeah.
And also just since like a lot of people have Sweet and there's like a ton of effects that no one even drags in, like it's nice to just pick something that's like unfamiliar to you and see what it does. That's usually a good writer's block crusher.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be releasing all the talks from the Ableton workshop that we did with like 9 different presenters. And a lot of them did talk about just like workflow and getting out of your head and into your body. and not overthinking the process, but just like constantly forcing yourself to keep moving. Because you can kind of get stuck in this echo chamber of like, does this sound good or does this sound good? But if you just keep forcing yourself to move and keep like working quickly and finding new ways of doing things and having fun in the process, like that's, I think, the key to like finishing tracks and actually enjoying your music you're making.
For sure. Try not to get stuck.
That's for sure. We've all been there, man. We signed up for this life of like constantly struggling and trying to bang our head against the wall to like finish tracks or make it sound good.
For sure.
Yeah, man. I definitely want to respect your time, and like I love the tracks and stuff. Once again, everybody, go check out Dnksaus, Carter. Check out your Instagram. You've got some really cool hacks and tips and tricks on your YouTube as well. Is there a best place for people to connect with you?
I have a Discord server. That's probably where I'm most active. And I have a bunch of different channels for like, sharing songs or sharing production tricks or just sharing anything, art, memes, whatever. That's where I like to make friends with people and talk about music and stuff. It should be in my link tree.
Okay. Yeah, we'll share that link in the show notes if anybody's curious on checking it out. But yeah,
wait,
man.
What was your Ableton AI?
Oh, yeah. So let's do that real quick. So his name's Abe, and he's like an AI chatbot I trained on the Ableton manuals and all my favorite Max for Live devices. I might have to add some of yours in there too to train him. And then favorite plugins, different workflows. I trained him on a couple different books that I like about music production, specifically in Ableton Live. He knows that. He knows that stuff. If you have a question for him, what would you ask him? What
stock plugin would you duplicate 20 times to get the best or craziest result?
To get the crazy. Okay. Usually he does the best when you're super specific. So if you could be like even more specific than that.
What plugin would you duplicate to shoot? I don't know how I can be specific.
To get the craziest, like what type of sound?
Bass noise.
Craziest bass sound with random results. Okay, yeah. What stock Ableton device or plugin would you duplicate 20 times to get the craziest bass sound with random results? Yeah, this is on my website, liveproducersonline.com. If anybody wanted to go play with it,
fun.
Try it out. There's like a 3-day free trial. It's also good for like saying, hey, I want to use Ableton's operator or wavetable. Help me make like a respace or something like that. Is also, he does a good job with that kind of thing. To create the craziest bass sound with random results by duplicating a stock Ableton device 20 times, you might consider using the pedal effect. Here's why. Versatility. The pedal effect can add distortion, fuzz, overdrive, which are great for creating unique and aggressive bass sounds. Randomness. By duplicating the pedal multiple times, you can experiment different settings for each instance. Customization. You can adjust parameters like gain, bass, mid, treble, and subs to shape the sound and EQ in various ways. Tips for using the pedal effect. Chain position. Experiment with placing the pedal effect at different points in your device chain. Parameter variation. Randomize or automate parameters across the 20 instances to achieve a dynamic and evolving sound. Combined with other effects, consider adding EQs, filters, compressors before or after the pedal effects to shape the sound. So we could even go deeper. We could say, what parameter on pedal should we macro map across all the chains to create a fun effect on the bass? Let's just see what it says. It says you could try the gain parameter. You could try this. Oh, interesting.
I think it'd be cool to modulate the mid frequency knob, since it separates bass, mid, and treble. That could be cool.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. It does say, combined with other parameters, consider also mapping the sub or the mid frequency to control the same macro for more variation. Yeah, interesting. It did actually say that. That's cool. Nice. Yeah, anyway. This thing's interesting. It learns as in the same conversation as you go. So if you just keep talking to it, it'll keep learning of what you're wanting to do.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I might have to play with that later.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'll send you a link if you want to mess with it.
Awesome.
But sick, dude. Thanks for joining the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Like I said, I love your content. Keep making sick music, and maybe I'll get to see you in real life sometime. Come to Denver.
For sure. My family has a place in Vail, so I come to Denver semi-frequently.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Hit me up in advance. Let's
sure,
meet
dude.
up. All right, cool, man. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, you too, dude.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Do me a huge favor if you would and hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you're listening to the podcast. If you don't hate the podcast, please leave a 5-star review. It would help me out a ton. Don't forget to check back on Tuesdays for new episodes. If you want to be the first to get new episodes and stay updated and get free new devices and sample packs and other stuff that I'll be sending out in the future, join the newsletter. Just go to liveproducersonline.com/newsletter and or check out the links in the show notes. Make sure to give this guest a follow on the socials, give them some love for spending their time. And once again, thanks for listening to the podcast. I will see you next time. Later.